Hello, marvellous, meticulous malt meisters, and thank you to Richard Killie for that malt mention. Richard, hello, and to your wonderful partner as well. I met you both in a supermarket on the island a few weeks ago, and here we are. You've waited a wee while, but here is your malt mention introducing Ralphie Review 898, and I've recently completed a series of 10 and 12-year-old relatively widely available official bottling single malt whiskies, and I'm now going to move on to what I referred to from my Patreon pals when I was intimating what I was going to be reviewing over the next 4 weeks. I flippantly called Last of the Affordable Whiskies. Time will tell as to whether that's true, but I would advise you, malt mates, that we're entering a period of global inflation, and if you do have the resources, it's a good idea to stock up on the good quality available whiskies now, because the way things are looking from the bothy in the Irish Sea, prices are just going to go up and keep going up, and you'll find yourself, if you've got maybe a dozen or so bottles set aside in your stash, and I know it requires a little bit of self-discipline not to open up all these bottles in a short space of time, but hey, we're about quality, not quantity. That's the fact of it. And we have that self-discipline to buy a bottle that we don't open for quite a while. I bought this bottle quite a number of months ago. I'll narrow that down a bit. About 4 months ago. And there was no rush to open it immediately. I opened it 1 month ago, had my first taste of it, and I found it a little bit confectionery and two-dimensional. And that's not a problem, because I can tell you right now, when you have your first taste experience and you're not entirely happy with it, just leave the bottle in your shelf for another month and come back to it, and you will find that it's slightly improved and will continue for a short period of time, for a few months, to improve as it opens up a little bit and oxidizes a little bit. As regards going past the point of being its best version of itself, you're really looking at younger whiskies, depending on the temperature in which you're storing. You're looking at 8 months, a year, sometimes more. With older whiskies, more delicate whiskies, with big age statements and big price tags, they will oxidize a lot more quickly. And you may find that they're kind of losing their energy after about 4 or 5 months. This is one traditional reason why decanters were used, not just for presentation, but decanters would be slightly smaller than the standard bottle, and therefore they would basically, you could have a few glasses from the bottle and then decant into a smaller vessel, and it would help regulate the degree of oxidization. There you go. The whisky I'm reviewing for you, the first of a series of 15-year-old whiskies, is going to be Tullibardine. And Tullibardine this is making another very rare appearance on Ralphie.com. Bear in mind, I've reviewed heading on towards 1,000 whiskies, and I've only reviewed Tullibardine once before, and it was an independent bottling, because frankly I found independent bottlings more to my palate. However, the official bottlings are certainly more widely available, so I'm sharing this with you because independent bottlings of Tullibardine out with of Europe are hard to find. You'd be struggling to see them. Gordon MacPhail do them, Cadenheads do them, I believe Signatory occasionally do them. You will find with the small independent bottlers more of these independent versions are going to surface. And I highly recommend you keep your nose out for them, because I have great expectations from independent bottlers who are going to present more naturally and more authentically than the official bottling. Bless them. This is at 43%. It's got an age statement. That's a good start. But sure, it's chill filtered and it's probably got some caramel colourant in it. I'm having a quick secondary look in case I've missed any small print. However, I've got my reading glasses on, so it's highly unlikely. Yeah, it's a generic bottling. Thank goodness it's at 43% and not 40%. Otherwise my review would be worse than it's going to be. But it's still a decent malt. But as I kind of alluded to at the start of this video, when you first open the bottle of Tullibardine 15-year-old, I know it looks the part, particularly with the packaging. I'll come to that shortly. But I think you're going to be disappointed. It's going to be very reminiscent of a standard bland bottling of Fettercairn. Confectionery, sweet, barley sugar, rapid arrival, quite inoffensive, very jobbing, very practical, reasonably soft development with a bit of banana in it, bit of spices in the background. A typical generic Highland whisky, and a competent enough finish, which is rather clipped at the end because of the chill filtration, completely removing the mouthfeel and texture of the whisky. But here's the nose. Let's start with the nose. I've spent about a month with this. I haven't consumed that much, but I've consumed enough to help me get my bearings to share with you. Slight sweet and sour, barley sugar, sultana, soft raisin, vanilla. Some spices in the background, nothing distinct. And that's what the first thing you notice about this. It's a very generalised malt. It doesn't really have a punchy signature. Not like Clynelish, for example. Or Glenfarclas. In the glass it will start to become a little bit more aromatic. You'll get some slightly spice, mild vegetal, herbaceous notes. And the herbal part of this is a little bit of mint, a little bit of angelica, sage, mild, and really that's about it. First taste. Sharp, acidic arrival, straight into the development, fairly short, no length to it for its age. A 15-year-old whisky should have more length, but the processing that's done it. You get this sweet, slightly cloying, confectionery, banana middle section in the development, which is masking the complexity there. Time to add some water. The finish, mild ginger, bit of vanilla, not such a lot. Adding water, I've added about 1.5 to 2 millilitres. That's really all I'm prepared to add to this. I would recommend a minute in the glass for each year in the cask. However, while that whisky's opening up, let's go to the presentation and packaging. This bottling would definitely be at home in a travel retail shop. You have cosmetic presentation, a big heavy duty cardboard box with plastic on it and a sort of open gate front with a little frame, all tastefully done. A matte interior. You even get a little sachet of activated carbon deodorizer. Now, I'm not sure why they would want to deodorize a container for a bottle of whiskey. Initially I thought that this was basically to stop any humidity in the box, but it clearly states in the packet, deodorizer, do not eat. So that's that. Quite a hefty amount of weight to this box. They've got a QR code in the back. It's nice to see that. So they're going to direct you, I'm sure, to the website where you can look at the other non-age statement single malts. But if you're going out to buy a Tullibardine, I recommend the Murray. That's the one to go for. Not this one. But this one has an age statement. So I'm going with this at the moment because that's my policy. How much did this carton cost? I'd reckon it cost at least £5. Probably more. And that, of course, is added to the cost of the whiskey. And if the whiskey is at an accessible price for a 15-year-old, which this is, it's a very good indication of the demand for a single malt, this particular single malt. And in my opinion, Tullibardine are really selling themselves short. I'm going to give Tullibardine some advice here, because I know Tullibardine at some point will catch up with this video. It's quite simple. Here's my message to you, Tullibardine. Do this 15-year-old, unchill filtered, natural colouring at 46%. Remove the carton completely. Just sell the bottle on its own. And watch how the sales suddenly appear. If you want any more advice from the Bothy, from Ralphie, here it is. Go over to Loch Lomond and see how they're presenting their whiskey, and do with your whiskey a bit more like they're doing their whiskey. Good luck to you. Now I've added some water. Let's come back to the nose. Aha, a little more interesting, a little more of vitality and complexity in the nose. It's more aromatic. You're seeing more going on. There's more gentle, soft fruits that are got a certain pungency to them, and they're lifting away from almost the sanitization on the nose of the barley sugar smell. It's just simply more complex. Taste. There's more bitter with the sour. Far more interesting. Actually, excuse me, went down the wrong way. That's my punishment for criticism. Just a tiny wee drop of water. And you see such a dramatic difference in the palate in particular. That's a really good telltale sign, by the way. You'll find it time and time again of a single malt underachieving and underperforming. It's when you add a drop of water and suddenly it seems it wants to come alive. It can deliver so much more, but it's not there because of the bottling strength. You see this all the time with Glengoyne. And there really is something quite special and singular about the single malt, but we just don't see it. Not in this style of bottling. Back to the taste. I'll do the development and the finish, and then I'll give it a malt mark. A much more expressive arrival. The bitterness challenges that sweet confectionery note that you first come across. Very successfully. It balances it out. It increases the sensation range, which then delivers the flavours in the whiskey more complex, in a more complex style. Now we're getting bitter lemon in here. The citrus is becoming more visible. The savoury herbaceous note is just in the background, nicely filling on all the little corners and creating something more dynamic, which is not reaching its full potential. But it's there. It is there, but it's commuted, it's commuted and it's muted. The finish, clean and fresh, mild ginger, bit of lemon rind, a little bit of bitter and sour. It's really sensations which define the finish rather than flavours. But thank goodness I added some water to this, or else I would never have noticed it. Anyway, let's give this a malty mark. La 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 la, tra la 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 la. "83 out of 100 is a malt mark from Ralphie in the Bothy." Now, if you want to head back again to my channel shortly for Ralphie Review 898 Extras, I will be talking about a trend in packaging in Scotch whisky, which I think is very interesting, and I'm going to give you my perspective on it. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. And if you'd like to follow me on Patreon, my patreon.com channel is called Ralphie. See you soon, malt mates.